Welcome to the GoPROcast, where we invite business doers who are changing lives by sharing their stories, their strategies and tactics, and who bravely talk about their failures that actually led to their biggest successes. Now it's time to Go Pro with Jeremy Torisk. Today I'm with Yvette Durazo, who is the principal consultant of Unitive Consulting. Unitive has organizational effectiveness, strategic conflict management, and leadership development experts. Yvette brings innovative techniques to promote a positive workplace culture in organizations to encourage trust, productive human capital engagement, and inclusion, something we need a lot of these days. She's also passionate about optimizing professionals and teams to engage in constructive problem-solving communication towards instilling respect, civility, and collaboration, some of my favorite things. Presently, Yvette is an instructor for the Human Resource Management Certification Program at the University of California, Santa Ana Extension, Silicon Valley, and for the University of California Davis Continuing Education Conflict Resolution Program. Please welcome to my program, Yvette Durazo.
Thank you so much.
I think I said Santa Ana too, and it's really Santa Cruz, right?
Santa Cruz, correct.
There's a lot of words. You have a lot of $5 college words in your intro. So I start off every program with a bit of an homage to a personal friend of mine. He's a business coach of also myself and my family. His name is Steve Nudelberg, and he asks, tell me something good.
Okay, so I'll tell you something good. Well, I am very passionate, like you said, about the work that I do. I think that I am, how do you say, I'm making good by doing good.
Wow, I love that.
So I love what I do. It's something that, just fall into my lap, 10 years ago. But at the same time, I was looking for something like this. I was looking for some skills in where I can help organizations to be able to work more collaboratively, more in peace. And I had my own series of experiences as I was working in the field, and I always kept that in mind, in perspective, that I was going through those hardship my own self, because there was something in it that I was learning in order to help others as I was growing up and building my career. And it did happen. I wrote the book, the book right here, Conflict Intelligence Quotient. And I mentioned some of the hardships that I personally went through, but at the same time, how is it that I transform those into live opportunities in order to be able not only to be text wise, but also to be a person that have gone through it and walked the same path and bring in that level of empathy and compassion into the work that I do.
And authenticity too. I believe that you offer another level of trust when you have been through it, and when you're helping people either through a difficult situation or hopefully to avoid the situation proactively, that authenticity really does make an extra effort to have people buy into the program.
Yeah, right. I have gone through a series of bullying, of situations with the HR departments where I question how is it that the HR human resource department is leaving outside of it the human side of the humans.
Because they are human.
Yeah.
And also probably it starts from the top. It starts because the leaders at that organization probably did a very poor job at holding anyone accountable. And that's a guess, but.
True. But, I myself immersed myself into a human resource certificate program.
I love that.
Exactly where I teach. And after going for a whole year, gaining that certificate, because I was very curious, why is it that HR, human resource departments are leaving the human outside of the equation? What's going on in there? Why is it that they're just using policies and procedures and not dealing with the human side of it? So I got curious and I immersed myself into this great certificate program here in Silicon Valley. And the reason that I chose Silicon Valley is because you have all these great instructors that have worked with the Google, the
Mm-hmm.
Facebook, all of these huge companies, and they bring about that nuance of human resource, right? Because these organizations, we hear about them that people are very happy working for these organizations, right? And then on the other side, I got the opportunity also to coach people on those organizations and see the middle ground and seeing what it was missing.
Yeah.
And then I was fortunate enough that one of the instructors, one of the professors there saw this passion of mine, and I was sharing with him, why is it that we're missing out on dealing with the human side of the conflict?
And
And
what did you find? What was how did you get to, any conclusions after that year?
well, I got to the conclusion that I was able to present to the director of the human resource department in the Silicon Valley extension, and he offered me to go ahead and teach for them. So
Wow.
I teach courses in negotiation, conflict resolution, mediation, and diversity, equity, and inclusion. Change management, because when you deal with change, you're dealing with humans being in fear instead of
Yeah.
fear
The
what's going
unknown.
to happen.
Yeah.
So I was very fortunate that they listened to me and they saw that there was a need. So
Yeah.
I had the opportunity to bring in, curriculum and to do that.
And so I don't really think I heard sort of an answer.
Okay, sorry about that.
Which could you narrow it down to maybe a behavior or a culture, maybe that's prevalent in businesses, why there is missing that human part of the HR department that is rampant, I think, across most of the country, and large businesses and medium businesses anyway.
Mhm. Well, if I were to share a little bit about the story about human resource, the human resource field has been a field that has been evolving. Back in the 1930s, that's when, the unions came about, right? Because there were issues that employees were not treated, well.
Yeah.
And eventually the Department of Human Resource started building up and they were doing the payroll. So little by little, human resource has evolved through the needs of the organization, but at the same time, they follow very strict policies and procedures that are mandated by the legal counsel of those organizations.
Yeah. Yeah.
And because of that, they miss the human side of it.
Mm.
They build punitive process
Yeah.
that instead of building people up, they're getting rid of people. And it's like, if you don't behave well, it's like the carrot and the stick. If you don't
Yeah.
behave well, we'll get rid of you. And if you perform the way that we want, we'll give you the carrot. And we live also in a evolved human spectrum. Humans are
Hmm.
constantly growing, and as we get exposed to the internet and learning, right now we live in an era where you don't learn just because you just don't want to. Everything is out there for you to learn.
Yeah. It's
But at the
amazing.
same time, yeah, at the same time, people are also evolving to their needs,
Yeah.
right? It is not the same, the employees back in the days that, you follow policies and procedures. Now they question. Now we see things like diversity, equity, and inclusion being part of the huge movement now in the organization. So with that said, HR has to evolve as well. And I think that they're doing a great job. With this pandemic, they were our heroes. The human resource department had to become more humanistic and start helping people to work in the offices in their homes, right? And then dealing with the pandemic situation, dealing with the diversity, equity, and inclusion now that everybody is talking about. They are evolving,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that is where I feel very grateful to be able to be in the forefront. I'm teaching these courses in mediation and negotiation and conflict resolution.
And I
And
love it.
yeah, and having the opportunity that now, I was able to take the pandemic on my
Hmm.
side and be able to use that space and that time in order to write the book that I had in
Yes.
my mind since 2013 or 2014, because I saw the need, right? Um, and I don't know, will that answer your question?
It did. It actually did. Especially, I think more to the point where you have deemed yourself the chief people's officer, and that's a great title. And I think that's what might be missing. And you got to it in a place where HR really was developed over time, and it really does look at procedures and make sure they're in line with the laws, and make sure they're limiting the exposure legally to the company. But the chief people's officer is a role that every HR department needs to really. So what I do in my business outside of podcasting, this is a marketing tool, and it's a relationship building tool. So to make money around here, I go to businesses and I help them with employee retention and employee engagement and how to hire the right people for the culture. And so we use the DISC assessment program, emotional EQ, all right, emotional intelligence. And so we really do teach people the platinum rule, which is to talk to people the way they want to be spoken to, not the golden rule, treat people the way you want to be treated. So to your point, it sounds like we're doing things that are very similar, in that you are now talking about, when I said emotional IQ, you're now doing conflict IQ, which is great. Conflict quotient. And that is the next level micromanagement of, I am talking to you how I like to be spoken to, or how you like to be spoken to, but we have a problem here. And one thing I heard you say on another interview was, we can't solve a problem from a state that caused the problem.
Yes.
And that was pretty cool. I liked when you said that. And so even though you're speaking to the person the way they want to be spoken to, it's all about state.
Yes. And that is that quote of Albert Einstein. That quote.
See, you're very smart.
That quote is very pivotal on my book.
I love that.
I talk about levels of consciousness. I talk about how is it that we can fluctuate from levels of consciousness, and we can find creative spaces within those levels of consciousness when we are involved in our past, when we are not aware of our biases that we have, and we're not aware of those experiences that we have had in the past that sometimes are unconsciously there. We're not in that state of how to be able to work with people, how to be able to resolve conflict. But if we find ways of levels of consciousness and where we can evolve and we can be more in the present, there in the present is where we can build the future, right? So that is part of what I'm teaching in this book. And another thing that I'm doing aside from the book, because a lot of people that I'm been coaching, they constantly say, oh my goodness, this is just a master mini course that I'm taking with you while I'm doing the hour coaching.
I love that.
That gave me the idea to develop an entire course to help people help our leaders to become conflict intelligence, specifically nowadays that we're dealing with so much in our lives, right? We're dealing with a pandemic. We're dealing with all these political division. We're dealing with organizations that are trying to stay afloat as to how to work virtually, right? And then the back and forth, trying to be hybrid, and then the virus, increases, things are happening, and then we have to go back, and that creates a lot of level of uncertainty, and that obviously brings the worst out of people, right? So with that said, I thought that it was very important for me to develop this course, and I'm actually going to be putting it up on February the 24th. I hope that your audience would be curious enough to check it out. And, it is a 10 module course, because the reality is that, to become a conflict competent person, it's not as easy as you can think. It is not about just taking a 1 hour course and getting some tips here and there. It is about structuring your levels of thinking. It's about perhaps changing your behavioral, transformation. It is about practicing. It's about being engaged and being in a place where you can learn in an experiential way. And that cannot be delivered in a 1 hour, 2 hour type of course. And I'm doing it live because I know myself. I have purchased courses and they're right there sitting in there, and I've never had time to do it. But I want that liveness. I want to interact with people. I want to answer them the questions that they have. I want to be available so that they can take the most out of the course that I'm putting together. And I'm also, developing the group coaching with it so that we can learn from one another and we can explore possibilities. Yeah.
And do they go to the website here, which is unitiveconsulting.com to find out in February? Will that be listed on there?
Well, yeah. Actually, unitiveconsulting.com is the website, but I can send you the other link if you would want to put it with
Absolutely.
the podcast. That will be amazing, so that people would know, because you're helping me to serve a mission here. This is not about making money and all that. It's more about, yes, I need to do well while I'm doing good, but it's about how can we help humanity?
Yes.
How can we help our organizations to continue to thrive? And part of those organizations, there's people. And part of those people, they're leaders, they're community members, they're family members. So I feel that I can make a great impact by bringing these teachings. And you mentioned emotional intelligence, right?
Yes.
I personally have coached people that I have tested in their emotional intelligence, and they're pretty good about emotional intelligence. Nevertheless, they still feel fear and intimidation when they come to deal with high stake conversations.
Sure. Emotional intelligence is more about being aware of self and social, reading the room, but also regulating your reactions in either situation. But it has nothing to do with inner conflict or fear of the unknown or the way the company treats you, the culture, what they accept, the level and consideration, exposing you to customers to berate you. All it does is tell you that I feel this way now. And if you have a high EQ, and I can regulate my response to it. But you're right, there's so much more. That's why I love the conflict IQ concept. So what does your class, your master class look like? It's live, but is it multiple weeks, once a week? Is it, how do you have it structured?
I have a structure, once a week for 90 minutes. And I give them, the instruction, I give them the work, and then they go out into the world and they apply what they learn. One of the things that I'm fascinated with what I teach, because as you know, I teach for UC Santa Cruz, UC David, Portland State University, is that I love for years receiving the feedback from my students, that they have used those skills right when they either turn out their camera or when they leave the class. Prior to that, I was teaching for National University 7 years, teaching courses in negotiation, conflict resolution, and I was receiving those feedbacks of students. And that is how I structure the teachings. It's not about just knowledge. It's about experiential processes that you can teach out every single time that you come to a class. You go out into the world and you exercise them. Then you come back into the group coaching, and then we discuss what worked, what didn't work.
Right.
Do we need to work deeper on one people than others, or there are some things that perhaps they misunderstood that they need more clarification. So that is the idea about
so it's very interactive. How many weeks do you think it's going to be?
This is going to be a 10-week module.
Okay.
So it does take a commitment, but nevertheless, I also have the membership. So those people that don't have the time or don't want to put the time, I also have these little membership where they can come in to these group coaching and just participate in the group coaching and hear from other people what they're getting out of the class, and perhaps picking up skill sets from there as well. So
I might be interested myself, because I was brought up in a very unusual way, very dark, drug addict parents, and a lot of alcohol and no rules whatsoever. I was homeless when I was 17 years old. And so I was in a lot of fights. I was the protector of my neighborhood. So I was in a lot of brawls. I still have that inner bully. So I beat up the bullies. I was very much the protector, but that rage that I built that was protective mechanism back then was so deeply instilled that later, when I changed and I grew and I became a leader myself and I became a father myself, I'm actually very proud of the way I raised my family. But even to this day, I have rage problems. I have problem controlling rage. I know that about myself. I go, in certain circumstances, I let that get the better of me. So this sounds like something that could definitely be something that I myself would love to maybe take a part of.
Love it. And Jeremy, thank you for being vulnerable and authentic here, in your podcast, that this is something that it's dear to you and you want to work on it. So that is, like I would say, you can be rehabilitated very quickly because you acknowledge that,
Oh, I'm
right?
open to it. Yes.
Perhaps you haven't found, you haven't found the right mechanism or the right way to work upon it. And I definitely get
Sure.
people that have already tried therapy. They come to me and they said, Yvette, I went already to therapy. I already went to counseling, and they give me scenarios how to deal with the situations at work, but it just not work.
Yeah.
Because, that's the other thing, therapists and counselors, I know these very well, their trainings are very different than what I got trained on. So they're very well-meaning, educated people that understand, but at the same time, their intentions are to understand mental health illness. And this is not a mental health illness. It's just the fact that, we grew up in environments, right?
Yeah.
That perhaps, this is the other thing that I also mentioned in my talks. Conflict resolution skills are not necessarily taught in school anywhere. And I would like to change that. And I tried, and I know how difficult it is just to put curriculum inside a school district. It's very difficult. But the reality is that we learn our conflict resolution skills by the people that we grew up with, by the way that we were raised, by perhaps the teacher, perhaps the parents, perhaps the TVs that we see.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we don't have very good role models in conflict resolutions.
No.
You turn out TV or you turn out YouTube videos, and what sells? Unfortunately, what it sells, it's competitiveness. Winning at all costs. Fighting, the drama.
Yeah.
So we don't have really good, teaching environment in order for us to learn that.
Yes.
And that's why I saw that there was this big opportunity and niche that I can be of value.
I like that a lot.
And also at the same time, fulfill my human needs of being able to be of value to other people.
Well, I know, I think what we'll do is we will maybe have you on again right before this launches too. And maybe we'll do a live show. I'm thinking about going live. So maybe we'll put you down for a live show a day or two before the launch to remind everybody about this, because I think it's going to be great. It's got a great place in the world, and I believe you may have to have a few nights a week, hopefully, if you have more people sign up than you can handle, because you're going to offer some feedback and everything. So hopefully we can get a lot of people in here, because I know it'd make the world better. I'm about happy. And it's all about, it starts with yourself, putting your oxygen mask on first before you can help somebody else. And my whole world evolves around helping other people. But if I'm not centered, I'm really not at my best, so I'm always looking for a chance to make myself 1% better just every day. And this seems like a great way to have that 1% one day for 10 weeks. And I think you might be counting me in. So
great. Well, I am offering, there is a percentage that I'm discounting, because this is the first time that I'm launching this course. And in the link, they're going to find, a 35% if they sign up before, I think it's January the 19th. And then a 25% discount if they sign up before, I think it's February the 5th or the 6th. So I'm already giving some discounts to give people the opportunity to really not think about it. Just do it. This is a great investment. It's an investment that you're doing on yourself as an individual, and also in your career.
Yeah, for sure. Because it's all interlinked, So give me that link so I can put it on my social also, because this thing goes out, all different ways. It goes out to YouTube, it goes out to the Audibles and all the, Apple platforms and everything. So we want to get this everywhere, because I think it's got a great need. And I know, you have other commitments today, so this is going to be kind of a shorter episode. But I want to tell you that I'm very impressed with what you do. I want to get a copy of the book Conflict. I know you're offering 2 free copies to some lucky people who listen. So direct message Yvette right to here. Do you want them to use your LinkedIn, DM your LinkedIn?
They can contact me on LinkedIn, or they can use the Unitive Consultant at gmail.com, and that way they can let me know. And the two people that send me an email first, I'm gonna send them a book, and obviously offer them an opportunity to see whether they would want to also join into the class, and give them a good special, so that they can
Great.
decide, because I want to help people. I want to help professionals, and I want to help the organizations. Like,
Right.
I don't know if I told you, or you read a little bit about my bio. My father was a person that was an orphan at the age of 7 years old. No education. He barely went to second grade,
Wow.
and he grew up very, with a lot of hardship. But nevertheless, he was an amazing leader. He
Was
had
that in Mexico, or was that in Southern California?
It was in Mexico, right across San Diego, California, and he was able to raise us with a very beautiful experience about how is it that he was a leader. He never had any formal education, and because of him, that's also what brought me into what I do right now.
Yes.
I'm always curious to figure it out. What is it, or how is it that we can bring more leaders like my dad, that were very selfless, that care about other people, that saw employees like their family. We had employees, and they were like our family.
Yes.
To these hour of the day, whenever they talk about my dad, they cry, because my
Oh,
dad
that's so
was,
great.
a family to them. It was not an employee, an employer that was just, here's the money and you do the work.
Yes.
So that was that was what brought me here, because of him, because of my dad, the
That's
way
great.
he raised us. And I was working with him as a very young age. I was very little, and that was my playground. His business was my playground, and I used to work there, and I used to see him, how he would interact with other people. So he walked the talk. He was that servant leader, and I wanted to figure out ways. And I think that helping people to become conflict intelligent, that is one of the ways, right, to bring
Yeah.
them to that level.
And it's a way that really can touch everybody's life, and no one can say that they can't use more conflict resolution skills.
Yes.
Well, I appreciate you being on my show today.
Thank you so much for this opportunity, and having me here to talk to your audience. I really appreciate it. And I hope that, I see more of your people coming into this course, and I would love to have you as well.
Oh,
Thank
yeah, absolutely. I think that's going to happen.
Sounds great. Thank you so much.
All right, Yvette. So I want to thank everybody today, and especially Yvette Durazo, for being on my show. This is why I do this, to meet new people, to talk about the issues that really impact employee engagement and happiness, because very few people are business owners. But business owners, you do it, hopefully you get into it to grow something. And that means growing relationships and really the people that you help you get to where you want to be. If you're not putting their lives and their cares and their needs first, you're doing it yourself in the world of disservice. So this is a great program. Maybe we can get some of my listeners who are business owners to put some of their employees through, some of their key executives. Please reach out to Yvette Durazo at Unitive Consulting at Gmail, or go to LinkedIn, Yvette Durazo, and that is spelled Durazo. So for LinkedIn, it would be YVETTE-DURAZO, and DM her, just mention my name, Jeremy Torisk, or the GoPROcast. The first two people that do so would get her free book, Conflict IQ. We appreciate you. We'll see you on the next Go